So now we're entering into a new segment of the podcast called Career Dilemmas, where I ask audiences like yourselves to put forward some questions or queries they have with regards to making a career change. So I've got a question that's coming from the audience, and they would love Rebecca's expertise in helping them make that career change. So the first dilemma is, I am a social worker of over 10 years who is looking to make a pivot into cybersecurity. Threat intelligence came up as an area of interest as it is to do with the safety of children online. I have a few questions I wanted to ask. The first question is, how can I make a pivot into the industry based on my background? What transferable skills do you see that I bring that could be quite useful within the role?
Wow, you are my second social worker. I've actually had a mentee who was a social worker that moved into cyber
Wow.
and is doing really, really well. So that you have so many transferable skills, my goodness. Social worker, you're putting yourself out there, you're dealing with challenging conversations, challenging situations.
Mm,
You're having to keep level-headed, trying not to stress potentially during difficult moments, difficult situations, dealing with sensitive, maybe privileged topics
mm,
that can't be in the public eye, can't be in the public domain. You have so many beautiful skill sets, but you probably just don't see them. So I would say you've got lots of transferable skills that you can bring, your ability to listen, to write, to keep topics sensitive, to be empathetic.
mm.
And they're all great core skills that you can bring with you easily into a cybersecurity career.
Fantastic. Are there any particular roles or organizations where they could work within threat intelligence? Because obviously, threat intelligence is like a domain within cyber. Are there any specific roles that stand out for their background that could be an easy pivot into?
So it's difficult because with threat intelligence, you typically have to work up to it as
Okay.
opposed to it being a typical entry level role when we're thinking
Mm,
about SOCs or analysts. So I'd say go in when you're looking for those positions, being open minded that seeing a threat intelligence role might be far and few between,
okay.
and instead it be a series of stepping stones to get to that position.
Mm,
I would say the most important thing is not to be limited by it having to be a cybersecurity firm,
okay.
because actually, particularly with child online safety, there's lots of charities and other types of organizations
Mm,
you could engage with to be making a difference.
yeah.
It just might not be under the label of threat intelligence.
Yeah.
So, if we think, for example, about a children's charity,
Yeah.
they will be working in ways to make content to educate children
Mm,
about how to be safe online. They may be developing toolkits, going out presenting, all those types of materials as an example.
yeah.
So, more proactive awareness. That could be a really great stepping stone in to then be eating up all that threat intelligence, to be understanding the
Yeah.
threat, to be exposing yourself to what the risk looks like.
Yeah.
And then you've got a nice stepping stone in. There are emerging organizations, particularly around child online safety, all the time,
Yeah.
particularly if we think about things like artificial intelligence.
Mm,
They're appearing because the risk is becoming very, very real and people are becoming more and more conscious to it. So I'd say just be open minded.
yeah.
Think about alternative pathways, which we love on this podcast.
Right.
And you might be quite surprised about where that can end up as a stepping stone into a maybe more authentic, true title of a threat intelligence individual.
Actually, that's a really good point because there are variations in job titles for the same types of skills, and threat intelligence roles might not necessarily be explicitly titled as threat intelligence.
Exactly.
Different role types and careers can feed into the threat intelligence landscape. So I do actually like the point about working for a children's charity. They must now be having online safety divisions that you can easily pivot into. And then I suspect for many of the charities, they probably have private sector partners that they collaborate with. So it might be, okay, what charities are there or public sector organizations that are to do with children and online safety? Is there a lateral move that you could make where you
Mhm.
work more on the digital space? I suspect in social care organizations, they probably have like a digital and online space, making that pivot and then looking at what private sector organizations they're
Yeah.
collaborating with and then making that move again.
You've got social media platforms.
Yeah.
They will have an area that focus on children. Schools that are
Yeah.
having to educate kids as new kit comes in
Mm,
to understand the threat, online bullying, all those kinds of things.
yeah.
There are so many connections, particularly to child online safety,
Mm,
that don't have to have threat intelligence in the title,
mm.
but that are inherently linked to being conscious and aware of the threat.
Awesome. Are there any events that they should be attending to increase their commercial awareness of the space?
So there's lots of wonderful events. If you just want to immerse yourself in the world of cybersecurity,
Yeah.
you've got things like Cyber Threat, you've got lots of SANS conferences, you've
Mm.
got the Cloud and Cyber Expos coming up. There's
Yeah.
so many options. A cheeky Google will show you
Mhm.
what is drawing attention and where the bulk of people are going. If you're interested specifically in child online safety,
Yeah.
particularly engaging with charities that focus on children. So, whilst it's not an exact example, I was interested in helping women with
Mm.
their online safety profile, and so I engaged with Refuge because that's a charity that specifically looks after women and children from a violence and safety perspective.
Mm.
So just thinking about it a little bit differently
Yeah.
can help you. There's also, again, related to child online safety, there is Shield, and
Okay.
that's run by a lady called Angelina, I think, off the top of my head. So she runs an annual conference where they have a plethora of different speakers that come, also considering conferences and events that are held by law enforcement. Because again,
Oh,
they're
okay.
more interested than ever before
Yeah.
about keeping children safe,
Yeah.
but also about changing children's perspectives that they don't turn into offenders. I think
Mm.
if we think about what's been in the press a lot recently, a lot
Yeah.
of young men, a lot of young boys turning into cybercrime, there's a bit more of a focus there right now. So I think
Okay.
keeping an eye on what law enforcement and SPCC are doing
Mm.
might again be just a clever way to get a different type of perspective than going to a cybersecurity firm and their
Yeah.
type of conference where they're looking at cyber maybe from a different perspective.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think from a technical perspective, maybe the traditional cybersecurity conferences, but actually, you've highlighted other areas. The charities, they probably have events. I think when you search for a charity, you might see if you join up to their
Hmm.
newsletter or their LinkedIn page or follow people who work there, that they tend to showcase events that they're going to or attending. But even the law enforcement or the public sector ones, I guess now it's now a topic of conversation. So I think actually, scoping out what different types of events there are, industry, public sector, charities, and looking at their agendas about what are they potentially discussing could be a great way to increase your commercial awareness about the industry. What do they need to upskill in? If they want to get into the online child safety space, what would you recommend that they develop their skills and knowledge in?
So it's kind of what we've reflected on already in
Yeah.
being able to explain the threat as it pertains to a child,
Okay.
because the threat landscape for a child or a young person is different to an organization. It
Mm.
just is. The threat looks and feels very, very different. I think being able to explain that in an accessible way, being able to maybe write that in an accessible way is a good skill set.
Yeah.
Again, being able to listen and create safe spaces. So know where your escalation pathways are. As an example, if a young person reaches out and shares something's happened, how do you direct them? What is the best practice? Who do they
Mm.
report to? Who can they trust if they're in immediate danger, for example?
Yeah.
Really understanding what exists, what the concerns are in the space right now,
Mm.
where potentially policy is changing. So,
Yeah.
as an example, if we think about the Online Safety Act and the
Mhm.
evolutions that's gone through in 2025, understanding how that can impact a young person and the governance around that. It's just really digging in the weeds
Yeah.
as opposed to being like, I need to go and get this technical
Yeah.
qualification. It's again just more about understanding what exists because that's how you're going to apply then your understanding of the threat and how we educate and create awareness around it.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Not a problem.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for your time and the knowledge that you've shared. We learned about your career journey from English and creative writing to PA to now working in threat intelligence, the work you do in this space, the importance of mentors, sponsors, and relationship building, and now providing solid career advice for someone to make a career change to become a threat intelligence specialist having a social working background. So, for the audience, if you enjoyed what you heard, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share with somebody else who you think might find this information valuable.